Hey there, this is Rob. This is my roommate Ray.
Hello.
And today we're both really fucking psyched because... Pumped. Because the Republicans kind of got made a fool of, but we kind of disagree. So what happened today was the AHCA failed. The sort of Republican health plan bombed. It went over like a lead balloon. But we've got a bit, I think, and we can agree on that. We're happy, right?
The failure was amazing.
Exactly. It's a fun thing to watch. It's good to watch people who really deserve it get screwed over, right, Ray?
I agree 100%.
However, we disagree strongly on one aspect of this. I think it's mostly a failure for the Republican Party, and as much as it disturbs me, I think it might provide opportunities for Trump. Whereas Ray...
I believe that it was an abject failure for Trump and the Republican Party as a whole. However, the caveat, Rob, is that you believe this was a strategy that Trump had. He wanted this to fail. That was the point of that I objected.
I believe that Trump wanted this to fail because Trump, or possibly Bannon, who does more of the actual thinking, or someone else who's strategically minded in the Trump camp, wanted this to fail because it was quite transparently and obviously going to hurt a lot of Trump's base.
See, there's two problems I have with that. One, that Trump actually cares about his base. Two, that he's smart enough to actually implement this strategy in which he demands a vote, then has that vote get pulled and blow up in his face, and then proceed to throw a tantrum like he does about most other things, how that could be good for him. And the long game, in which Rob tried to point out, is that somehow he believes this is going to lead to Trump not only going after a universal health care law with Democratic support somehow, in which I respond, no Republican's going to support that. So there is no possible way this is a strategy by Trump. I think he's just not that bright.
I think it's very possible. Now, they won't call it single payer. They'll call it like Medicaid expansion or something like that. But I think Trump consciously, once again, Trump or his handlers, consciously wanted this to fail so they can possibly come out with something else that, it would take essentially nothing to be better than AHCA. But
this also means that you believe the Freedom Caucus, which also was a point of my opinion, is that the Freedom Caucus can't be controlled. They were unleashed, essentially, the Tea Party, to obstruct this original bill, but they now are obstructing everything the GOP wants to do, and there is zero way, if they can't get behind this bill, they're going to get behind a universal health care. Call it whatever you want. These cats are not going to.
But what you call it is very important. They're just going to they're going to come up with some. Obviously, they're not going to call it single payer. They're not going to call it socialized medicine. They're not going to call it.
But they don't like Medicaid or Medicare because it's a social program. It's a socialized program.
But these things, like the Freedom Caucus, like the reason they were able to screw the Republican establishment so hard over the past, number of years is because they had something that seemed like, to the establishment, the Republican establishment, that like just doesn't have it, popular support. I would argue that Trump has that. Like the Freedom Caucus used to have this thing here that they could hold over the Republican establishment.
Sure.
Trump owns that.
How can Trump have popular support when he did not win the majority of voters? His approval rating is very bad. And frankly, he represents about 20 to 30% of the populace when it comes to his party affiliation.
Well, sure, but that's exactly it. We've had many strong conversations about the Electoral College. We won't go in that direction.
It's a failure.
We won't go in that direction with that discussion today. But
to evolve.
But you acknowledge that the Electoral College and Congress have very similar setups, right?
Okay.
Because
meaning arcane rules that actually can be manipulated to produce results that the minority party wants.
Well, exactly. Like you look at the Republicans, right? And like the Freedom Caucus guys specifically, a lot of those guys, like, you look at a House Republican Freedom Caucus member, like these numbers aren't accurate, but like
it's like
one of those
30, right? Like roughly 30 or so Freedom House Caucus members,
yeah,
something like that.
I'm not as up on it.
Something like that.
But you got to figure most of these folks are from red states.
100%, all of them are.
And the way that works, and the way that the popular vote isn't necessarily important, is like your average like red state House member is elected by 30,000
people.
Well, thousands of people versus like the representative,
hundreds of thousands or millions
versus like the San Diego representative who's sitting here in San Diego probably has like 1 million people in his district, right? So it's the same setup, So like those Freedom Caucus people. Like just because
they
Trump is
represent-
incredibly unpopular, and just because he lost by 3 million votes, like those Freedom Caucus people are
3 million
like
plus.
from a completely different like electoral college type setup.
Correct, but I guess what I'm saying is, number one, I don't believe he's smart enough to strategize to have a bill that he has touted as saying has to happen. We have to repeal Obamacare, but I really secretly, O'Bannon and I want this to fail.
But
He's just not that smart, and frankly, it's if he could make the Freedom Caucus fall in line, they would have passed this bill.
exactly.
So,
no,
but he can't
That's
make them fall in
exact.
line.
That's it. He didn't want to, because this is something I've been talking
He has
about.
a funny
for
way
while.
of showing it.
This is something I've been talking about for a while. I did a video a couple months back about the smug Republicans and how they're so excited that they've got Congress and they've got the presidency. They're going to do everything they wanted. I think that we learned today that they're not, because specifically the president is not on board with the old school Republican stuff that I, to some degree, in its best form, believed in.
I think that this is the writing's been on the wall longer than just now, because they've had control of Congress for longer than just these couple months.
Sure.
And this small minority of their party, the Freedom Caucus, has been obstructing them since they came into power, essentially, for a good half of the Obama administration. So I think they created this devil that they have to deal with, and I honestly believe Trump thought he could bully them, like he bullies everyone, into voting for this, and it was an abject failure.
But I think, and you have to be careful here with the Freedom Caucus. Like, there's certain parts of the, like certain people like Justin Amash or like Rand Paul who've like come out as like more or less sort of anti-Trump in ways. But then there's a lot of them that are just sort of like drawing from the same well of sort of like, forgotten. No, the donors are.
I guess
terrifying.
what I mean is,
but like drawing from the same well of like sort of like, I'm trying to be friendly and charitable here. You might call them toothless yokels, but I'd call them like the like forgotten voter, like Rust Belt. Like,
I think the forgotten voter is the voter who doesn't vote. That's the forgotten voter.
Well, that's a larger issue. Yeah, that's a larger issue.
With that said, at the end of the day, I don't believe Trump is smart enough to strategize in the way that you're suggesting to go after a full universal health care bill. Because one, it would never pass his own party.
I see, but I think he can. I think he has a lot more control over the Republicans and the Republican base than even the Republicans or the Republican like founding
and this
class
is where we
realize.
disagree.
Right?
You believe Trump has more control over not only his party but his own actions than I believe he does. I believe he literally, from moment to moment, doesn't even know what's going to come out of his mouth, let alone whether he can cajole and manipulate his party into doing what he wants.
I think like if we're talking about Trump personally, I agree completely. Like the amount of just like complete like Twitter own goals that he's gotten into, like it's
like this
freaking
wiretapping thing, random thing, and he's gonna stick by it till the end, even though every shred of evidence
like I'm not like Trump's playing like extra dimensional chess. And
can we tangent just for a second on this wiretapping thing? Just a quick tangent. One quick tangent.
Okay.
How is it that this entire time went from wiretapping to surveillance, and all of a sudden they find out there actually was some surveillance going on in Trump Tower because he had a nefarious Russian gangster living in Trump Tower and doing money laundering to the tune of millions of dollars for the Russian mob. And now all of a sudden that's being touted as proof that they were surveilled. So how is proof that you're surveilled when you lease space to a Russian gangster?
It's like, look, it's true. I am definitely should be under investigation. I don't like. The whole Russia issue just makes me. I feel like it's just an insane.
I'm sorry to tangent, but
insane distraction. But yeah, like so as I was saying, like it's not like Trump is like Trump's a genius, but I do think he has people who are thinking about this a little harder.
Yeah.
Like my sort of Trump's an idiot.
Sure.
Like my sort of like Trump's an idiot default position kind of went out the window when I saw what happened with the election. Like because for 9 months they're like, what's he doing in Michigan? What's he doing there? He's never gonna do. And like
a lot of times
somebody knows something around.
I just don't think there was a lot of strategic, like deep thinking that went into that. I think there was some other things at play, underlying things within our own culture and our own society that came to the forefront, and that he just happened to be the lightning rod for. I don't know that his strategy to pull out of states and give up on states and what I just don't believe. I honestly just can't give him that much credit.
I I never ever want to be seen as giving Trump credit, but like some of the people, call it Bannon, call it. I mean, there's they're tapping into something.
Sure.
They're not.
There's
idiots.
other individuals influencing this strategy,
and I just don't think like the Trump administration wanted AHA to succeed.
So, to go full circle, we are doing this video because I want to bet Rob that there will be no universal health care bill that comes out in the next 6 months, because that would have been part of this elaborate strategy to have this fail, is that Rob believes a universal health care law is going to come out and get Democratic support and somehow get enough support on the Republicans and pass.
Oh, I didn't say pass. I didn't say pass.
Okay, fine.
I said, but be proposed.
Okay.
But be proposed. It
won't be proposed.
I do believe. Now, it won't be called universal health care. It won't be called social medicine. It won't be called, it'll be something like Medicaid expansion or like
The Freedom Caucus
some
have a field day with that. Field day.
I think something like that, some kind of TrumpCare is quite possibly going to come out, and it's going to be moving further towards universal coverage. Okay, yeah, right.
The bet is that will not happen in the next 6 months from my perspective. Rob believes it will happen, and therefore we want to get this on record. For posterity. Yes, and I believe that the winner we have a prize that is to be determined. But it will be significant. It will usually involve some sort of ridicule and humiliation on a social media level.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout for that. In 6 months, Rob is basically going to have to grovel a little bit.
Honestly, I think the thing that Ray would find the most satisfying would be me admitting that I am wrong and he is right.
That would be glorious.
Which would, it would be like, you've been waiting for something like that for 20 years?
Well, that's another argument I think we can have right now. But hey, we won't do that today.
All right. So, but I think we can agree that it's freaking fantastic.
A great day.
It's a great day.
It's a great day for the American people.
It's a great day. And I also, let me just briefly pitch. I got 2 videos on this topic. The Republican Party is dead, and Smug Republicans and the French Revolution, that I think are probably worth checking out. Because when I made them, people were like, oh no, it's this Republican monolith that's coming to destroy the country. It's like, well, actually, no, like, Democrats are a mess right now, but the Republicans, despite what the positions they hold, they're in just as much of a mess. And
agreed.
We're going to see more of that.
It's a complete shit show right now.
It sure is.
Stay tuned.
It sure is. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I've got some non-YouTube stuff coming up in the next couple weeks, and a great way to hear about that would be to sign up for my email newsletter. Thanks very much.
Go Blue.
Yes, go Blue.